Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And one question for the month of June remains to be a complete mystery. Will there be a Nintendo Direct, and if so, when? Well, that information might have just leaked out online at a laughably comical cover-up from a developer email. It's a little amusing how this all came to be, but we might have a date now and at least one game that will show up there. So we'll talk about that a little later on in the video. Also, Xbox Game Pass looks to add a brand new feature that is actually a very welcome addition. You know, I always like to say that competition breeds excellence, and this story here is exactly what I'm talking about, so make sure to stay tuned for all of that later on in the video as well. Before we get started though, if you're enjoying the video, and really if you like to stay up to date with all of the latest gaming news, rumors, and leaks, especially at a time like this with all of these Summer Game Fest showcases, make sure to hit that bell notification, subscribe, and like button below. Other than that though, let's just go and dive right into the video, starting off with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Of course, Activision already announced the release date for Modern Warfare 2 being October 28th, but today they went ahead and opened the floodgates. They did just drop a new premiere trailer that you can go check out now, and they did also reveal some new information and basically confirm some of those rumors that's been going around. The first of which is, yes, this is a cross-generation title releasing on the Xbox One, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and this is really the great news here, but yes, Call of Duty is coming to PC via Battle.net, and more importantly, it's once again returning to Steam. Now, this was already rumored, but here it has been confirmed, and this is actually the first Call of Duty game to release on Steam in, I believe, 5 long years. Of course, Activision has their own storefront, being Battle.net, but here with them kind of loosening the reins on easily their biggest franchise and allowing it on Steam, I do kind of wonder if this will start to translate to maybe other Activision Blizzard games as well. Maybe games like Overwatch 2, that should be coming out here sometime soon. You have Diablo 4, and really the list goes on and on. Could those games possibly come over to Steam as well? I've kind of said it before, but the thing is that Xbox, they're a big Steam supporter, and if and when they do acquire Activision Blizzard, and with Activision already showing signs of Steam support, we could start to see more of these Activision Blizzard Steam releases in the future, and this would be a huge win for the PC gaming crowd. Now, as for Warzone 2.0, they did confirm it will also be releasing this year in 2022, though no exact release date just yet, but again, it will be releasing on all platforms, including Steam once again. So there you have it. You Call of Duty fans out there have a lot to look forward to throughout the year of 2022. Moving on though, we do have a bit of a strange PlayStation rumor to talk about today, which really comes off as a major surprise if this turns out to be true. Now, with that said, it's probably best to take this leak with a huge grain of salt because the source here doesn't exactly have as long of a track record as I'd personally like to see. Usually, I wouldn't even talk about a leak like this on the channel, but in this very specific situation, the user over on Twitter by the name of The Snitch did leak out the entire PlayStation State of Play early, and Tom Henderson, which is a very credible insider, seems to be giving this user some credibility. Even then, I'd still stress taking this with a huge grain of salt because, I mean, you can fake being an insider, we've seen that in the past, but with that said, let's just go and take a look at what exactly is happening here. So, The Snitch posted a very vague tweet simply saying Part 1, 02.09.2022, and then has a controller and PC emoji below that. Nothing else was really said, but that might have been more than enough to decipher what this kind of means. And right now, the belief is that Part 1 is referring to The Last of Us Part 1, or in other words, The Last of Us Remake. This is a game that we have heard a lot about this year, and Tom Henderson also believes this to be the case, that it could be referencing The Last of Us Remake. Then, of course, the numbers will be a release date for September 2nd later this year, and then, most importantly, the emojis seem to be signifying a console and PC release. Now, that right there would be the huge shock, because up to this point, we've never really seen Sony release one of their high-profile first-party games day one on PC. They've always kind of staggered all of their PC releases up to this point, so this would be a pretty drastic shift in Sony's strategy if And again, I want to emphasize that if this does indeed happen. Now, that's still the big question here, though I guess we'll kind of see here soon enough. There is a chance that this game might finally get revealed tomorrow at the Summer Game Fest. I think if anything, The Last of Us Remake seems to be real with some very credible outlets reporting on that specific game, though whether this leak actually is, that's a different story. That all kind of remains to be seen, but let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below, and do you think that there is a possibility that maybe Sony could release a PC game alongside their PlayStation release day one? Do you think that they would actually do something like that? Let me know in the comments below. Next up though, in a bit of a coincidence, updates have been spotted for Resident Evil 2 Remake, 3, and 7 in the PSN database. This was discovered by PlayStation Game Size, and this really is interesting for two different reasons. One being that Capcom did reveal earlier this year, back in March, that all three of these games will receive next-generation enhancements for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series sometime in 2022. Now, little else is actually known beyond that, but that's why this is just so interesting, because the timing of all of this just perfectly corresponds with the Summer Game Fest and the Capcom Showcase. So this is just yet another thing that might be announced sometime within the next week. We might get some more concrete details on what these enhancements will include, and better yet, when we'll get the chance to play them ourselves. In fact, there's a possibility that we might just get a shadow drop here, and really, if you've not played these games already, and if you do have a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series, then you definitely need to check these games out. They're absolutely fantastic games, but they also look amazing visually as well. So I am very excited to see these games get that next generation treatment and then just kind of take them to the next level. Let's go and talk about the possibility of a June Nintendo Direct though. I think that most people, they do believe that this will happen, but Nintendo, they've been very hush-hush about all this up to this point. Right now, it kind of looks like they're just going to announce this last minute, but well, about that. It might have actually just leaked out a little early. Yeah, I know, it's been a very leaky day, and I get that and everything, but this is just what kind of tends to happen before these big showcases. Still, though, I have to admit on this one specifically, this is one of the more amusing leaks that I've covered because of how it came to be. I've not heard of something like this happening before, but let's just go ahead and get into this. So this is coming from Reddit Gaming Leaks and Rumors, and this is just wild. So a supposed content creator posted this before later on deleting it. Hello, I received an email from a developer recently, I'm a content creator, asking me if I was interested in a code for a game that launches next week on Switch, which I personally wasn't, but the game will be exciting for some action fans. Usually when this happens, the publisher will ask me to sign an NDA before sharing any info at all, including even what the game is. Oddly enough, they did not do that this time or ask me not to share this information at all, so it's all fair game. That said, out of respect for their surprise, I will not say what game or developer it is. With that out of the way, the game is scheduled to drop on Switch next Wednesday, with the embargo for coverage also being on Wednesday, June 15th. It is going to be one of the shadow drops during the Nintendo Direct. Since the embargo is set for specifically 9 a.m. Pacific Time, I presume that the Nintendo Direct will happen at 9 a.m. Pacific Time on Wednesday, June 15th. As a side note, this lines up with what some other developers that I did sign NDAs for sent to me. Hyped to watch with you guys next week. And okay, this just all kind of seems like a random rumor at first, but, well, then it continues. Moderators did ask for proof, otherwise they were not going to approve this thread, and then the content creator showed them the email and very poorly blacked out the information that could be traced back to the specific game and developer in question. Well, it didn't exactly take the internet all that long to figure out what game this email was for, because somebody just simply increased the brightness and then could read most of the email. After brightening the email, it was discovered that the game in question was for Neon White. And by this point, things are starting to look pretty legitimate. Even then though, how do you come to the conclusion that this is for the Nintendo Direct, and that this isn't just some random release date? Well, this content creator, they continued on to dig their own grave here by clarifying that they had signed NDAs for other developers as well. That does signify a June 15th Nintendo Direct. So on one side, there you have it. I think most people were kind of expecting a Direct right around the middle of the month, so I don't think that this is overly surprising or anything like that, but I mean, just wow. This person admittedly signed NDAs and said that they weren't going to talk about it, but then they continue to proceed and do that anyways over on Reddit. I don't really know what this person is thinking. If any of this can be traced back to a specific content creator, then I don't think that developers are going to necessarily trust this person going forward. Like I said, this whole thing was just kind of bizarre in how it came to be, which is probably why that content creator, they deleted their post eventually. But there you have it. It does look like there's a possibility that Nintendo Direct will be on June 15th, though now we're just kind of waiting for an official confirmation from Nintendo themselves. This is Nintendo though, just because this leak is out there, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily in a big rush. If they were planning to announce this next Tuesday or whenever, well, then they're probably still going to wait until next Tuesday to make that announcement. But I mean, as long as this is true, the month of June just keeps getting better and better, and I'll be really excited to see what Nintendo has to show at this rumored Nintendo Direct. Now, we also got some Xbox Game Pass news today as Tom Henderson reported that Xbox will be making some big reveals tomorrow before the Summer Game Fest, and this includes a rather interesting perk for Xbox Game Pass subscribers. Now, keep in mind that Sony is set to release PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium sometime here soon, and one of Premium's new features that's been much talked about is playable demos, where you'll be able to play demos of games for a set period of time without the need of actually purchasing them. Well, Microsoft took notice to that feature apparently because, according to Tom Henderson, they're set to announce their own version of this sometime tomorrow, and that it's set to release later this year in 2022. Developers will then be able to choose on whether or not they want to enroll, and if they do, they'll also be able to gain some extra benefits for themselves, including getting necessary data needed for game development, and Microsoft will reportedly be compensating developers opting in as well. So that's actually really nice to hear. The fact that Microsoft will apparently be compensating these developers makes something like this not only consumer friendly, but also developer friendly as well. Of course, we still need to see exactly how this works, but this here really is the beauty of competition. Xbox Game Pass has often been viewed as the best deal in gaming over the last couple of years, and well, Sony, they took notice of that. So they've been building out their own competitor with PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium. And while it lacks day one first-party releases, they've tried to do some other things like these demos as an example to just kind of sweeten their own deal. So Xbox pushed PlayStation to make a better subscription service, and their fans, they're reaping the reward of that. And now, once again, we're seeing with Xbox, they're already looking to improve Game Pass with a similar feature here. This is the exact meaning of competition breeds excellence. This is the perfect example of why you want a healthy game industry where all platforms are doing well, or in this case, subscription services. They push each other to make each other better because they're all competing for the same consumers. So anytime that you just want to see that other platform fail, you always do need to kind of remember that competition, they really do make each other better. So always do kind of remember that. Nonetheless, though, it does look like Game Pass is looking to improve even further, and it sounds like there will be a few more Xbox announcements made tomorrow before the Summer Game Fest. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, and with ESA committing to the return of E3 with both a digital and in-person event next year in 2023, I wanted to ask you all, would you like to see E3 return as a physical event in 2023? And yeah, based off the results here, you all absolutely would like to see it return, with 71% of you all voting yes, while 22% of you said no. So based off the results here, you all are still not exactly sold on these digital-only showcases from the Summer Game Fest. And really, I can't completely blame you all here. Not because I don't think that they can improve, and I'm hoping that we do see a big improvement this year, but rather because the last couple of years, well, they've kind of been a mess. That's what everybody's impression has kind of been so far with the Summer Game Fest. It, however, does look like this year's going to be better, though I will say that I do kind of miss the crowd's reaction at the same time. I mean, when you just hear the crowd just absolutely erupt in applause, it just makes these announcements even more memorable. Announcements like Zelda Twilight Princess or something like Final Fantasy XIII for Xbox. Those were big announcements at the time, but even more so with the crowd's reaction. It just kind of adds a little something extra here. I do want to add, though, that I'm not really against digital events, though. they're still exciting to me personally, and I do understand from a business perspective that these events at E3, that they were very expensive, so I do understand why a lot of these publishers might continue to gravitate more towards digital showcases going forward, but again, you do kind of miss those crowd reactions. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.